How's it going, bros? Welcome to MIT, virtually of course, thanks to the amazing world of YouTube. Today we are going to be reading Negotiation Hacks by Simon Rycraft. This book teaches us expert tactics to get what we want. Now, why are we reading this book specifically? Always remember, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And so, we are reading this brilliant book in front of this brilliant university, and there might be background noises. I'm really sorry, that's just my background. Please bear with me. And this is my second book that I'm reading out aloud, so please bear with me on that as well. Okay, so this book basically has an introduction. It has hack 1, which is the non-verbal communication, the importance of mastering how to recognize and control non-verbal communication techniques is rarely discussed. Hack 2 is called Aristotle, the fundamentals of persuasion that date back to 2300 years ago. Hack 3, styles, knowing your own negotiating style, how to read other people's styles and adapt accordingly is critical. Hack 4, behind the mask, personal needs impact even the largest commercial corporate deals. Hack 5, the law of attraction, an expert negotiator maximizes their personal level of magnetism in order to drive negotiation success. Hack 6, game plan. Preparation is key. Knowing how and what to prepare requires focus and attention. It also has conclusion, acknowledgements, notes, references, citations, and about the author. I will link all of these at different timestamps in the description. So if you want to skip, please be my guest. Alright, let's begin with the introduction. The official meaning of the term negotiation is a formal discussion between two or more people trying to reach an agreement, excluding basic traits and battering. While the act of negotiating is both an art as well as science, anyone with the right insights and support can rise to the ranks of an expert negotiator. You don't need to be a practitioner with 30 years of experience or a mind reader or someone who was just born with significant leverage. Nor do you need to be an FBI agent, although that surely can help. You do, however, need to be prepared. Whether it's 5 minutes or you have 5 months before your negotiation finally begins. This book focuses on 6 distinct and proven hacks that are easy to learn, easy to implement, and accessible to anyone. These hacks have been gathered from my academic pursuits and experiences in working with hundreds of companies from Silicon Valley and Silicon Hills startups to the Fortune 500. What I've learned is that regardless of the complexity of a negotiation, anyone will benefit from an appreciation of and the deployment of these negotiation hacks. Negotiations I have personally supported include individual salary negotiation, 100 plus company contracts, and M&A, as well as diverse activities. Rather than just rely on my own experiences, I have also received and gathered first-hand insights and references from various prominent philosophers, gurus, psychologists, behavioral scientists, and business management experts. Examples of situations in which these hacks are most valuable include startup founders who are fundraising or negotiating with large enterprise clients, corporate development or investment banking teams working on an M&A deal, sales leaders who must improve their pipeline conversion rate, purchasing directors negotiating with suppliers, technology executives finalizing major outsourcing contract, trainee attorneys, lawyers looking to sharpen their persuasion skills, and the list goes on. My aim is not to offer a new negotiation framework that is slightly different from the many that have existed today, but rather to summarize what I believe to be the most important negotiation hacks that you can digest in a few hours and then revisit at a later date. The real skill comes from testing out various techniques for yourself, and as well, practice makes perfect. Hack number 1. The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. By Peter F. Drucker. Nonverbal communication. While verbal and written communications are the focus of most interpersonal exchanges during a negotiation, being aware of and controlling your nonverbal communication is just as important. Hack number 1. The study of this topic can be traced back to the year 1872 in Charles Darwin's book, The Expression of Emotions in Man and Animal. Darwin wrote that the young and the old of widely different races, both with man and animals, express the same state of mind by the same movements. Following on from Darwin's studies, there have been extensive additional research into non-verbal communication. 4 key insights of which I find particularly important to understand in the context of negotiation. 1. Body language. The chameleon effect, also known as mimicry or copying how someone is sitting or standing, is often seen as an approach to signal that 2 or more people agree with each other and or are building a good rapport. Have you ever found yourself subconsciously copying or how someone is crossing their arms or legs? It's important to note that negotiators who are already aware of the benefits of mimicry will often use it strategically, copying your gestures to deliberately try and accelerate the building of a relationship. The next chance you get, have some fun with it. You can easily catch someone else who is consciously aware of this technique by randomly moving your seated position and taking note of how quickly the other person responds in the same way. Proxemics is another key, albeit somewhat more subtle, more non-verbal communication consideration. Proxemics focuses on the physical distance between people as they interact. Ever felt incredibly uncomfortable or pressured when a stranger, acquaintance, or co-worker stood a little too close? Did you move away immediately or try and back off slowly to avoid causing insult? As you can imagine, being too close to another person can completely interrupt a negotiation's progress and flow. It's important for each party to feel that their personal space is being respected. As a guide, in most countries you should sit or stand at least 4 feet away to avoid causing any discomfort. One of the main reasons to be mindful of nonverbal communication is that it can give you insights into another person's sincerity. When someone says that they cannot provide a further price discount or they don't have a budget to cover the cost of your services, keep their nonverbal communication in view. According to Albert Mehrabian, Professor Emeritus of Psychology UCLA, in his book Silent Messages, Implicit Communication of Emotions and Attitudes, deceitful communicators compared with truthful ones are thought to nod and gesture less frequently move their legs and feet while seated, lean forward less, use less eye contact, talk less, talk more slowly, use more speech errors, smile more. Professor Mehrabian also found that increased physical self-manipulation or adjustments, scratching your head, touching your arm or face, also indicates deceit, presumably associated with the subconscious reaction to the general discomfort that some people have when telling a lie. A critical delivery tip when it comes to non-verbal communication is that to need to keep your non-verbal cues such as body language in tune with your personal style and what is being said. Remember that the other person will be looking to see if your physical gestures mirror your words. When in doubt, keep them both open and positive. Look out for inconsistencies in how the other negotiation party is sitting in alignment with what they are saying, as well as in alignment with the messaging being delivered by the other members of their team, if present. A good example here could be that if you're crossing your arms and legs but telling the other party you're open for a long-term relationship. 2. Eye contact. The connection of eye contact is in communication and interpersonal interactions is with us from birth. In a study conducted by neuropsychologists Sarah Jessen and Tobias Grossman, Unconscious discrimination of social cues from eye whites in infants. The brains of 4-month-olds showed higher levels of activity when they were processing the gazing face of an adult versus an adult that was looking away. At 7 months, the infant's brain showed higher levels of activity even when they saw another person's eyes for only 50 milliseconds versus face with averted eyes. Far too quick for any kind of conscious awareness. To try to identify the optimum length of unbroken eye contact, to make another group of psychologists recruited participants at London's Science Museum and asked them to rate how comfortable they found different lengths of eye contact made by faces shown in video clips, ranging from between 100 milliseconds, a tenth of a second, to 10,300 milliseconds, just over 10 seconds. On average, the participants were comfortable with eye contact that lasted just over 3 seconds. While a second rule should likely vary in a negotiation, when to are you listening versus speaking, it is a guide to help you ensure that you are sufficiently engaging with the other negotiating party so that every message is delivered with maximum impact. I also highlight how eye contact is important in Chapter 5 in reference to the laws of attraction. I personally struggle with controlling eye contact more than the other controllable non-verbal communication levers. I've been told that I don't do it enough, and when I want to try to improve it, I often get some funny looks. The difference between good eye contact and staring is a fine dividing line that one day I hope to master. It is often said that eyes are the windows of the soul, so it's important to try and get it right. If used correctly, eye contact has the power to instill trust, as mentioned above, avoid creating the perception of deceit. Paralinguistics. Paralinguistics is the study of how something is said, not what is said. Strong links have been found between arousal cues, facial vocal activity, speech rate, and volume, and the persuasiveness of the accompanying messages. For example, faster talking individuals are deemed more persuasive, as are speakers who use varied tones to avoid being monotonic. Louder volumes also appear more persuasive. However, this is likely limited and does not include volumes that can be interpreted as shouting. Number 4. Health. Trying to stay healthy in both body and mind is something that is rarely linked to negotiating. However, it can play an important part. While our health is not completely under our control, there are some elements of it that can be managed by choice. Eating healthy, exercising regularly, and getting enough sleep are all factors that can impact our performance in negotiation. As Arianna Huffington, world-famous author and CEO of Thrive Global, states in her book Thrive, the third metric to redefining success and creating a life of well-being, wisdom, and wonder. Sleep deprivation, for example, reduces our emotional intelligence, self-regard, assertiveness, sense of independence, empathy towards others, and the quality of interpersonal relationships, positive thinking, and impulse control. Okay, hack summary 1. It is critical to be mindful of non-verbal communication techniques, only relevant for in-person or video conference-based negotiations. Key attributes to look out for and be in control of during your negotiation include: A. Body language. Number 1 is chameleon effect. The technique of either subconsciously or consciously copying another person's body language to signal you agree with them, or as an attempt to accelerate a trust-based relationship. 2. Proxemics. The appropriate use of physical distance between you and the other person you are negotiating with to avoid unnecessary discomfort. 3. Eye contact. To support the verbal message being delivered is received clearly and to express what you are fully engaged in the conversation. B. Paralinguistics, which include talking faster with varied tones and louder volumes, can help improve your perceived persuasiveness However, it is important to note that these should all be applied within reason. Talking too fast, too varied, and too loud can be viewed as confusing, rude, and disruptive. C. Good health, where it can be controlled, can help you increase factors such as emotional intelligence and empathy to help drive better negotiation results. That was the end of hack 1. If you're ready, we're gonna move to hack number 2. There's a quote here, but when you read back verbatim what they are saying to persuade them, they realize exactly how I have played them. Dan the Automator and Prince Paul. We're beginning chapter 2, Aristotle. Negotiations are often seen as a battle where each person must use their skills to defeat the other opponents, tricking them into submission. The reality is generally less dramatic, where each person's goal is to get the better deal than the one originally on the table. While many negotiation books and training materials reference hostage situations, I prefer to focus on the techniques that will help drive success in more likely business scenarios. In any given negotiation, there are a few core, overarching persuasion techniques, which I argue are just as relevant now as they were 2,300 years ago. The king of persuasion, Aristotle, who lived between 384 BCE to 322 BCE, is commonly considered one of the fathers of philosophy. His work encompassed research in biology, astronomy, geology, physics, psychology, economics, and poetry. In his second book, Rhetoric, he outlined 3 core principles of persuasion that any speaker needs to display to convince their audience to believe their story or argument. Hack number 2 is learning how to apply these same 3 principles in any negotiation you're conducting. Ethos, the first principle of persuasion, is the relation that an audience has with the character of the speaker. By the character, Aristotle was referring to trust. To persuade someone to follow you and either meet or get closer to your negotiation demands and goals, you must first gain their trust. Trust is much easier to build over time through experiences in interacting with another person or company than it is to develop in a short period. This is especially true if the person you are working with has never met you before. In many situations, you will likely start at a disadvantage due to certain factors that might seem outside your control. These factors can include any or all the following. The individual you are negotiating with is naturally mistrusting of others. The company you are working has shown to be untrustworthy in the past in working with this individual or business. You already did or something during the negotiation that has put your credibility into question by mistake. Key tips to build up your perceived trustworthiness. 1. Spotlight connections. Make your connections visible to other individuals or groups that you know are trusted by familiar to the other negotiating party. Beyond making your connections clear, it is always worth getting a proactive preference, such as asking one or more of your connections to reach out to the other negotiating party in advance. Another more subtle way of alternative is to mention a recent meeting or a phone conversation with the trusted connection. Be wary of saying things like, "Oh, by the way, I went to high school with your CIO." If you haven't spoken to that CIO/person for over 20 years and are purely name dropping, it can have the opposite of the desired effect. Number 2. Everyone loves a storyteller. Tell stories about yourself and your company. Try to ensure it is clear how you or your company's mission is directly aligned with your negotiation goals. This technique is used by some of the most successful startup founders I know who use storytelling to fundraise and secure investments that would otherwise never been possible from traditional sources such as bank loan. Paul J. Zak, founding director of the Center for Neuroeconomic Studies and a professor of economics, psychology, and management at Claremont Graduate University, studied this technique in his book, Trust Factor: The Science of Creating High-Performance Companies. In the early 1990s, Professor Zach's lab discovered that a neurochemical called oxytocin is produced by the brain to signal it's safe to approach others. Oxytocin motivates cooperation with others. It does this by enhancing the sense of empathy, our ability to experience others' emotions. After running multiple studies, Professor Zach's team found out that the use of character-driven storytelling is the key trigger for oxytocin synthesis. It is also worth noting that the type of story being told is important. According to a study by Professor Daniel T. Gilbert and Gus Cooney, Department of Psychology, Harvard University, and Timothy D. Wilson, University of Virginia, listeners enjoy hearing familiar stories much more than novel ones. So ensure your stories are as relevant and succinct as possible. 3. Credential but don't brag. Present your credentials to the other negotiating party. This can be simply done by ensuring to include your title in an email. You might be surprised how many people don't do this, or reaching out to the persons by sending them a LinkedIn invite. There's also no harm in referencing your credentials while telling a story, but don't overdo it, and avoid repeating yourself or bragging. No one likes a show-off. Number 4. Earn it. Review ways in which you can show that you are trustworthy. When a company doesn't have a long list of credentials or, for example, weak financials, the case for many startups/young companies, the trust that the other CEOs, founders, or senior team can instill with potential investors becomes super critical. Trust signals such as hitting previously forecasted revenue or new customer acquisition targets can all go a long way. Pathos, the second principle of persuasion, is the concern that you need to have with the emotions of the other negotiating party. Humans are emotional beings, despite our desire to think we are rational decision makers. With this in mind, it is important to identify ways to arouse the emotions of the person you are negotiating with. Give the other negotiating party evidence of how easy it is to do business with you. Simple gestures that can help include, for example, arranging the logistics for your next meeting, opening doors for the people at their office, or remembering to say please and thank you if the other party sees that working with you is more like a meaningful long-term relationship rather than a one-off transaction. They'll want to support your goals. These approaches might seem obvious, but should not be overlooked. We will also cover this standalone hack in Chapter 5 on the law of attraction. The third and final principle of persuasion is logos, the reasonableness of your argument. While being both trusted and empathetic to the other negotiating party is important, you will also need to provide hard facts, references, and research to back up your claims. Logos can have simple as providing statistics that the other party may not know or quoting specific facts. For example, 80% of our customers renew their subscriptions every year. Or, on average, our clients double their net operating income within the first 6 months of using our services. As noted by the late Dr. James C. McCroskey, a renowned expert in communication studies, including good evidence may significantly increase immediate audience attitude and source credibility. Dr. McCroskey also found the use of evidence and logic is less important or effective if you have already known by the audience. Irrespective of how you intend to use the power of logos, always be prepared to provide backup evidence and/or use a third-party firm to help validate your arguments. Okay, hack 2 summary. Applying our Aristotle's 3 key principles of persuasion can help you improve your negotiation position. B. Each principle is less effective if used without the other two. C. The first principle, ethos, deals with the need to ensure that the other negotiating party trusts you. Key tips to doing that include: 1. Make visible your connections to other people that they trust and/or respect. 2. Use storytelling as a more persuasive way to explain your background and why you need certain things during a negotiation. 3. Make clear your credentials. 4. Practice what you preach. D. The second principle, pathos, guides us on the importance of appreciating the emotions of the other negotiating parties. To evoke positive emotions, show the other party how easy it is to do business with you and make them feel comfortable and at ease. E. The final principle, logos, highlights the importance of using logic as a part of your negotiation. For example, conduct and share the results of the market research or price benching to back up your claims. That was the end of chapter 2. If you're ready, we're gonna move to chapter 3. Hack number 3. There's a quote here. There are times when I am so unlike myself that I might be taken for someone else of an entirely opposite character. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Oh my god, I butchered that name, I'm really sorry. Let's begin chapter 3. Styles. Hack 3 is the need to understand your own personal negotiating style as well as the necessity to adapt your style depending on whom you're negotiating with. Your negotiating style, while mostly subconscious, include various elements and preferences such as where the negotiation is located, your office, their office, or neutral ground, in person versus remote. The team structure you like to use and your go-to list of tactics. More about these hacks in Hack 6. To better understand your own negotiating style, look no further than your personality type. Extroverts, for example, are known to display certain personality traits, which can include wanting to be the center of attention and/or regularly talking about their own feelings and emotions out aloud. In a negotiation setting, these personalities will want to define the negotiating agenda, will try to control the flow of information and communication, and will make demands early and more frequently than the other personality types. Before we delve into many dimensions of negotiating styles, it is important and helpful to take a step back to look at where the study into various personality types is commonly believed to have begun. In order to do this, we again need to turn back another well-known Greek philosopher, Hippocrates, who lived from 460 to 370 BCE. Hippocrates is considered the father of modern medicine, also credited with the research into the study of the 4 temperaments theory. The theory suggests that there are 4 fundamental personality types: sanguine, choleric, melancholic, and phlegmatic. Hippocrates described the 4 temperaments as the part of the ancient medical concept of humorism, linking 4 specific bodily fluids to everyone's personality traits and behaviors. While the last 2000 years has cast doubt on the correlation between bodily fluids and the types, the underlying psychological principles that Hippocrates devised still apply today. Even though most people are a blend of these 4 personality types, we all have certain personality traits that play a more dominant role in how we interact with others. People with choleric personality are said to be passionate, ambitious, and bold. People with melancholic personality are predominantly reserved, anxious, and unhappy. People with a sanguine personality are joyful, eager, and optimistic. People who have phlegmatic personality are said to be calm, reliable, and thoughtful. Most recent research have taken the 4 basic personality types and styles and developed a much larger and complex series of variations. Researchers famed for developing new frameworks in this academic area include Carl Jung, Jungian typology, William Marston, interestingly the same guy who invented the first lie detector test and created the comic book hero Wonder Woman. His book is titled Emotions of Normal People. David Keirsey, author of Please Understand Me, Isabel Briggs Myers, and Catherine Cook Myers, creators of Myers-Briggs type indicators, and David Kolb, developer of experiential learning theory. What the collective work of these psychologists help to reinforce is that our personality and style are driven by a mixture of unique genetics and life experiences. In summary, no person is the same. But what does this all mean, helping you to best optimize your performance in a negotiation? 1. First, understand your own personality style by talking to one of the various tests available online, such as MBTI, which is www.mbtionline.com, or Keirsey, www.keirsey.com. Alternatively, give 2 or 3 of your friends the list of 4 personality types with a brief description of the related key traits and ask them to summarize which type best describes you. Number 2. Observe the 4 personality types in your friends and or work with colleagues and look patterns in how they interact. Are they displaying one personality type all the time or switching styles in different settings, such as a large group meeting versus a one-on-one discussion? 3. Appreciate how different personality types have different needs. How often do you negotiate or persuade with someone who displays signs of the choleric personality versus someone who displays signals of phlegmatic? People who use the same negotiating style all the time, regardless of who they are negotiating with, will struggle to consistently hit their negotiation targets/goals. Number 4. The fun comes with learning how to adapt with your own style to suit the situation. If you are someone who leans towards displays of the choleric personality during a negotiation, you will find it much harder to instill ethos/trust in a new acquaintance. If the person has a mainly melancholic personality, you can still be authentic in your negotiation, but using techniques akin to the phlegmatic personality will genuinely be more effective in getting what you want. While adapting your style to suit the situation may make a lot of sense, it isn't necessarily that easy. Professor Albert Mehabarian, reference in Chapter 1, is also well known for his research into people's social styles. Profession Mehabarian highlights that people are generally able to control only very superficial aspects of their behavior and self-presentation, such as what they are wearing, personal grooming, and how they might phrase sentences. The fundamental aspects of an individual personality type are much more difficult to alter and won't be easy to change overnight. This aligns directly with Austrian neurologist Sigmund Freud's work on the psychodynamic theory of the human psyche, which first popularized the concept of the subconscious and how it controls our everyday actions. Being able to adapt your personality type and subsequent negotiation style in somewhat agile and reactive way, especially under stress or pressure, is a skill that takes focus, discipline, and a lot of coaching and practice. We're ready to hear the summary of Hack 3. A. Negotiating styles are typically linked to the person's personality type. Taking the lead from Hippocrates, it's a special name, there are 4 basic personality types. People with choleric personality are said to be passionate, ambitious, and bold. 2. People with melancholic personality are predominantly reserved, anxious, and unhappy. 3. People with sanguine personalities are joyful, eager, and optimistic. 4. People who have a phlegmatic personality are said to be calm, reliable, and thoughtful. 5. To understand your own style, take one of the various tests available online such as mbtionline.com or www.keirsey.com. I said those in letter by letter so that if any of you want to go, please be my guest. Ask a few close friends and colleagues for their opinion and compare the results. B. Be mindful of how your dominant negotiating style may potentially conflict with the other negotiating party and adapt accordingly. C. While adapting your style to suit the negotiation make a lot of sense, it isn't necessarily that easy. Practice makes perfect. That was the end of hack 3. If you're ready, we're gonna switch to hack number 4. There's a quote here. You'll get all you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. Zig Ziglar. We're beginning chapter 4, Behind the Mask. Behind every comment, facial expression, and body movement is a complex web of perspectives, bias, interests, and desires. Finding out as much as you can about the other negotiating party's needs and wants. Hack number 4 gets you closer to appreciating their position and strategizing how you can use to understand to your advantage. In order to be truly appreciative of another person's desires, you first need to learn about them. There are 3 key sources that you can use to help reduce information asymmetries include 1. Online research about individuals, details typically found on websites such as LinkedIn, as well as from a basic Google or Bing search. A. Review how long they have been looking at their current company in their current role and also check where they have worked in the past. See if they've shifted roles and professions multiple times or done the same work in the same or similar industry for most of their career. 1. These insights help you determine how experienced the individual may be. If they've worked as an aerospace engineer for 30 years, it's very likely they will know more about the industry than you do. So trying to persuade them that your new product is better than anyone else's on the market today won't be easy. 2. If they're new to their role, be mindful they are looking to prove themselves and will be cautious of trusting a new individual that they or their company has never interacted with before. 3. If they've been in the same role at the same company for between 3 to 5 years, unless they're close to retirement, it's possible they're looking for a promotion, so will be eager to deliver or be involved in a new project or new venture that supports rather than hinders that goal. B. Check the companies and associations they follow or are affiliated with. If they're connected to certain professional or industry associations, this can highlight the depth at which they are psychologically and emotionally tied to their job. If you can help them win an award that is recognized by their industry peers or connect them with someone well respected in the same industry ecosystem, then you are providing them with much more value than they get elsewhere. 2. If they're connected to a charity/non-profit or sports association that can indicate a non-work related topic you might have in common. Awareness of the interests they have outside of work can be used to highlight to them that you're interested in them as a person and not just in negotiation. C. Take note of any mutual connections you might have. Identify mutual connections can give you insights into the person themselves. People typically connect with those of like minds. As mentioned in Chapter 2, this can help you build trust if any of the mutual connections are strong and are willing to act as your reference. Number 2. Online research about the company. Again, from basic Google searches looking for recent company news, history of the company's culture, and how/when the company was founded, and a look at their published financial statements if available. A. News found online can range from recent announcements such as M&A activity to public relation updates, both positive and negative. Reading recent news gives you insights into hot topics that the individual and their company may be facing. You can use it purely to show that you care about the company, to pay a compliment, for example, congratulations on the recent acquisition of X. Or, if you're lucky, your product and/or service may be of value in the issue that the company is currently facing. Maybe they just had a customer data security breach, and a company provides PR services on demand to help with those exact type of situations. B. A review of financial statements such as 10Ks, 10Qs, QS, 8Ks, S1S, and S4S provides a lot of data points around the company's recent activity and financial health, as well as insights into the performance of various products, business divisions, and/or regions. If you are not a financial analyst or well versed on how to interpret various financial statements, you can always ask someone in your financial department for their opinion. Alternatively, you can review summary materials found on websites such as Yahoo Finance, Google Finance, Motley Fool, MSN Money, or Morningstar. In doing your research, look for recent financial quarter announcements and trends in financial metrics that you may be able to help influence, such as net income or gross revenues. 3. Offline research. Reach out to catch up with any mutual connections you might have, but only if they truly trust that connection. 1. In addition to just name dropping your mutual connections and using them as reference for your credibility, you may also want to talk with them offline and ask for any tips that they can provide working with that individual and/or company that you are negotiating with. They may hold insightful content on the culture of the company or how to navigate and negotiation obstacles. B. Ask the person you're negotiating with some direct questions. This is a good way to test out about the other research you have done and also to be double checking your assumptions before relying on them to guide your negotiation strategy. 1. If you cannot find any information of use online, then revert to the techniques of asking questions. It is amazing how much you can find out about someone during a negotiation just by asking. You will also learn about things about them that even their close friends or colleagues didn't know. This approach is known as the Socratic method, so named after another Greek philosopher, Socrates. 2. When I work with corporate executives in a training room environment, I often play a fake magic trick with someone from the audience. While the person selected may seem random, as with most magic tricks, the person always is picked on purpose. I ask them to write the answer to 3 questions on a piece of paper and hand them to someone else in the room. I pretend to harness mind-reading powers and begin writing down the answer on a whiteboard in the room. 9 out of 10 times the person selected and most of the people in the room are shocked by the game. The secret is purely from doing some online research about that individual before the training session started. One thing that never ceases to amaze me is how many people in the room are unaware of the answers to the question, despite sometimes having worked with that person for several years. The questions are generally straightforward, such as which city you went to college in, which month you were born, or what is your favorite color. Having one question such as their favorite color, which I often get wrong as this is rarely researchable online. Hack 5 will go into more depth on the importance of using questions and active listening to gain trust and improve your likability. What the magic trick highlights is that asking only a basic few questions, you are already at a competitive advantage over the other people that may be negotiating with. To truly understand another person's needs and wants takes much more than pure research. It requires you to empathize with the other negotiating party, putting yourself in their shoes. The individual, team, or the company allows you to appreciate why the negotiation even started in the first place, and the direction that it needs to take place in order for you to be successful. If you do your research and don't put it in use with empathy, then the negotiation will either take longer than necessary or hit a deadlock, or end with no apparent option for revival. In an interview with Sam Richards, senior lecturer in sociology at Pennsylvania State University, I asked, "How does empathy empower?" Sam responded with, "True power comes from understanding. True understanding cannot occur unless we allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough to say, I don't know that person's story and I really want to know." That's the foundation of true empathy, and it requires open and vulnerable communication. According to Sam, many people attempt to be empathetic but fall short and are merely tolerating and sympathizing at best, both of which are significantly less effective. While being empathetic to the other person can help with your negotiation, it is important to avoid misuse. If you're not careful with the information you have found, especially personal information, it can raise a red flag that you might be untrustworthy and have the opposite desired effect. Your research can also drive you to make incorrect assumptions. For example, assuming someone of British descent is a tea drinker soccer fan, or that all Japanese people like sushi and karaoke. In addition to empathizing with another person's or the company's goals, make sure you underscore how your goals align with theirs. The rule of reciprocity, made popular by Robert Cialdini, Professor Emeritus of Psychology and Marketing at Arizona State University and author of Influence the Psychology of Persuasion, is a well-known human condition where people are inherently wired to want to give something back of something received. If they know your goals are aligned with theirs, this can take the power of reciprocity to another level, as they will be more likely to want to achieve those goals together. Okay, so hack 4 summary. A. Every person has hidden needs that, if understood, can better help you get what you want during a negotiation. B. In order to have a better appreciation for the person or a company you are negotiating with, do as much as online or offline research as possible. C. Use the research conducted to empathize with the other negotiating party, highlighting clearly how both of your goals are aligned. D. Avoid using the research to draw any potential inaccurate conclusions, assumptions. Incorrect assumptions can have the opposite desired effect, causing irritation instead of motivation. That was the end of hack 4. If you're ready, we're going to move to hack number 5. There's a quote here. If you don't want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. Dale Carnegie. The law of attraction. Hack 5 is based on the law of attraction and likability, its use, misuse, and interpretation. How you have ever consciously noticed there are people who always seem to be most likable both during the first interaction with them as well as throughout your personal engagement. Irrespective of your religious spirituality or cultural beliefs and values, it is hard to deny that you enjoy doing business with some people more than others. Whatever the source of this attraction, be it trust, familiarity, desire, or just how a person makes you feel, understanding this law and the magnetism it can create is critical step in the path to your negotiation enlightenment. This hack is just more about realizing how someone's likability can weaken your negotiating position, unless you stay neutral and resist their magnetism, as it is about learning how you can increase your own appeal. In order to truly deploy hack number 5, there are 6 specific techniques that you can increase your chance of being liked. Continuing of use and consistency are also very critical, especially if you will be interacting with the same person multiple times. Without continuity, you are in danger of coming across as insincere. Ask a lot of questions and actively listen. As noted in hack number 4, asking specific questions can help you understand the other negotiating party's needs beyond your initial assumptions. Another positive effect of using questions, if they're relevant and credible, is that it can increase your likability. Actively listening to the person or group you're negotiating with shows them you care about what they are saying, are engaged in the discussion, and have vested interest in reaching a negotiation solution. The neuroscience behind why people enjoy the attention of being listened to is compelling. A study led by Professor Diana Tamir, Department of Psychology, Princeton University, found that individuals place high subjective value on opportunities to communicate their thoughts and feelings to others, and that doing so engages neural and cognitive mechanisms associated with reward. Active listening goes beyond just staying silent, though everyone, including me, is guilty of either purposefully ignoring what is being said, daydreaming, or just pretending to listen while distracted by other stimuli like cell phone/mobile phone during a conversation. To listen actively follows 5 simple rules. Concentrate by mentally absorbing the content in an email or what is being said during a negotiation. This can include responding to some of the nonverbal cues detailed in hack 1. If someone appears uncontrollable, offer them a cushion. Number 2. Acknowledge what is being said with facial expressions, changes in body positioning, responding to emails, or by saying a simple understood or okay. 3. Take full responsibility for the completeness of a message. If you acknowledge what someone has communicated to you, but they later find out you weren't listening, it can have the opposite of the desired effect. Something as simple as verifying the spelling of someone's name when you first meet, or asking them to repeat a phrase or comment that you know is important to them or to their negotiation can show you care. Number 4. Keep appropriate eye contact, as mentioned in hack number 1. Number 5. Avoid distractions. When possible, unintentionally delaying someone's responding to someone's email or staring at your cell phone during a meeting can be important tactics in some settings. But when you are trying to build rapport with another person, these techniques can be perceived as disrespectful. Sell the benefits of the deal. Focus on the positives and exploring adjustments to the existing deal rather than proposing vastly different alternatives will help make you and your offer more attractive. Negotiating is foremost a sales activity. You're tasked with selling a solution to the other party, even if you are the one buying something. You must appreciate the need to sell your terms in order to reach a final agreement. Be calm and confident, friendly and positive. There's a very thin line between confidence and arrogance. In fact, ego is often the center of many negotiations. If you act confident without displaying traces of egotistical behavior, will be perceived as likable. If your negotiation opponent enjoys interacting with you, they're more likely to want to reach a negotiation agreement that they achieve some or all of your goals instead of playing a zero-sum game. Equal to being confident is the importance of being friendly. This is a key tactic that Tim Sanders, New York Times best-selling author, public speaker, and formerly Yahoo executive, appraises in his book, The Likability Factor. Proactively working on being more friendly means ensuring everyone you meet feels welcome, using friendly language, particularly the first name of the person you are talking to, and smiling. Last but not the least is the need to be positive. As Professor Elaine Hartfield, University of Hawaii, Professor John T. Cascipo, University of Chicago, and Professor Richard Rapson, University of Hawaii, explain in their book Emotional Contagion, being positive not only increases your likability but is also contagious. In a negotiation setting, this can have the impact of changing the mood of the other negotiating party. If the other person feels more positive when they are with you or around you, they will be more reasonable and flexible when it comes to trying to accommodate your needs. Give and take. A no strings attached approach to helping others can help you be more likable. As world-famous author Adam Grant writes in his book Give and Take, a revolutionary approach to success. People are attracted to those who care about them. What is often difficult to assess, though, is someone's true intentions. Giving, especially in a negotiation, can often have hidden and alternative motives. The best way to give during a negotiation is to focus on providing knowledge or meaningful connections that might have other negotiating party values, as previously mentioned in hack number 4. In addition, it can be also helpful for the other negotiating party to know that you are a giving person in general. This can also be evident via references/testimonials or by giving their learning you are connected to an unrelated third party such as charity. While this approach is often less used during a one-off single negotiation or if you are negotiating with someone who is extremely self-centered, it can also have a positive compound impact if you need to negotiate with the same people/organizations again or with someone in their network. Avoid stress/irritators. Avoid stress in a negotiation helps to showcase that doing business with you will be a stress-free process. Avoiding stress means avoiding the temptation to use irritators. Potentially offensive comments or gestures often go unnoticed to the person delivering them but can cause discomfort to the receiving party. Irritators can also be subtle as not opening the door for someone or as obvious as the overuse of profanity without justification. Of course, everyone gets irritated in different ways, so if you want to play it as safe, just be polite and show respect. Admit your weaknesses. Humility is critical to creating and sustaining attraction. Admitting or displaying your weaknesses is one way of expressing humility and making yourself more likable. The best approach of doing this in a corporate setting is to open a meeting by listing the challenges that you are facing up front, such as: the reason we are here today is to find a solution to the fact that we need to find an alternative source of supply as our source provider is too expensive. If we do not find a cheaper option, then we may have no choice but to make the headcount reduction. It can also be more subtle and include, for example, admitting your weakness at a sport or even remembering dates or names. Last but not least, being liked should not be confused with agreeableness. Acknowledging the other negotiating party's arguments and needs will not weaken your position if you maintain your ground and don't lose sight of your goals. We have reached the Hack 5 summary. A. The law of attraction, if used appropriately, provides with significant leverage in a negotiation. Not only does it make doing business with you seem more enjoyable for the other negotiating party, it also increases the chances that you will hit your negotiation goals faster. B. Tactics for using the laws of attraction in your favor. 1. Ask lots of questions and actively listen. 2. Work to sell the benefits of the deal to the other party. 3. Be calmly confident, friendly, and positive. 4. Find ways to give and not just take. 5. Avoid stress/irritators. 6. Admit your weaknesses. That's the end of hack number 5. If you're ready, we're gonna move to hack number 6. There's a quote here. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu. 6. Game plan. If you have ever taken a formal negotiation training session or a seminar, one of the foundational learnings from those investments is the importance of preparation. Hack number 6 might seem somewhat counterintuitive, but expert negotiators will always do more preparation than anyone else, limited only by access to resources and/or the amount of time they have been given before a formal negotiation begins. When delivering these type of trainings or talks, I focus on the topic of preparation in as short as period as possible. Then run mini case study sessions, allowing the attendees to make use of templates and, most importantly, learn by doing. While the use of certain tactics during a negotiation may come as a second nature, you'll also find the additional leverage is gained by planning which tactics you intend to use, who you should use them, and when. It may vary. It may seem that you are always rushing and don't have the time to fully prepare. When this happens, ask yourself, why did I leave it so late? The reality is that the negotiations don't begin the first time you meet the other negotiating party. Negotiations sometimes begin with the first time you communicate with the other party over the phone and or over the email. During that first interaction, they are already marking their positions, formulating a view on your style, and pressure testing with your weaknesses and potential flaws. Preparation is not just about getting ready for the first in-person meeting. It also applies to the importance of how you conduct business in general. See hack number 2 and 5. When you do not have enough time to prepare, below is a list of 8 favorite negotiating tactics, as you will notice. The most well-known tactic is called good cop and bad cop, has been left from the list as I am willing to bet on anyone with the young kids has to deploy that technique at least 3 or 4 times a week. Tactic 1. Set the strategy and anchor. Crafting the parameters within which you can and will negotiating is extremely important. A predefined negotiation strategy, for example, allows you to gain alignment from your other negotiation team members, but also becomes your cheat sheet to ensure that you stay focused and on track and don't lose control. In its simplest form, a negotiation strategy means asking yourself, what is the lowest point I can go to, either on price or with a specific contract term, and what is the maximum? Have you ever set a budget for buying something that ended up going outside the range, likely driven by emotion? Have you ever tried to sell something, had a buyer say that your lowest price is too expensive, and walk away without a sale? I like to picture that the negotiation strategy like a sumo wrestling ring, where each person will consistently try to push the other person outside the ring, purely to test their limits. With a negotiation, once your negotiating strategy has been set, the other party pushes you outside the ring and refuses to let you back in. You have no choice but to signal a deadlock and walk away. Having a strategy is great, but you cannot keep it to yourself. Sharing key targets and with the other negotiating party by anchoring your position will help them determine the range within which they can operate. Don't forget to be both honest and realistic. If, for example, you say, the most I can ever pay for this solution is $250,000. But then the negotiation ends with you paying $400,000. you have immediately lost your credibility. If you ever need to negotiating with the same person or company again, anchoring is what you set a limit in the mind of the other negotiating party to indicate your limitations and goals. Example, this is where the boat stops, so please don't try to maneuver outside this zone. How and when this tactic is used are also critical. In my experience, the best approach is to be the first person to drop the anchor and do it as soon as possible. Just like making the first play in any game, it gives you the opportunity to be one step ahead. Tactic number 2, teaming. Knowing when to negotiating on your own or use a team is a key tactic in itself. Those who enjoy negotiating prefer to dominate the negotiations and rarely coordinate with others. This could come from a heightened and potentially inaccurate belief of self-worth, but can also be driven by a lack of experience in negotiating with a team of fear of exposing it, if and when they fail. On the other side of the spectrum are those people who feel less comfortable negotiating on their own and prefer to delegate the responsibility to someone else whenever possible. Whenever your position and the level of confidence is worth reviewing the advantages of teaming in a negotiation before you make the final decision. Once you make the decision to team, who you pick and why are just as important as who you exclude, accidentally or on purpose. If you select to use a team, make sure you have predefined the negotiation strategy. Have the strategy signed off by your own boss, or for example the company chief financial officer if needed, and then run as many role sessions with the team as possible. The team doesn't have to be physically present to play a role. They could be involved in sending emails to the other negotiating party, joining a conference call, or stepping into a meeting for a few minutes to deliver a specific message. Tactic number 3. Lack of authority. When this tactic is used, it is difficult to tell if the other person is telling the truth or telling a small lie. Have you ever had a salesperson say, "I need to check with my boss as I don't have the authority to approve that level of discount"? If yes, it is very possible that you have had this tactic used on you in the past. Some negotiator will go to the extreme length to make the tactic seem real, such as faking a phone call to their boss or leaving the room to get approval when all they do is making you wait while they check their emails or play a quick video game. What this tactic does is limit on the other negotiating party's concessions and makes it more difficult than it really is to reach a certain goal. The tactic also guides you on what is and what isn't possible. If the other negotiating party also says that they don't have the authority, then they aren't necessarily saying no. It does highlight, however, that you are getting towards the higher or lower limit of your negotiation strategy. To call their bluff in certain corporate setting, it is more reasonable to end the negotiation and ask their boss to be included in the next session to stop wasting their time. This only really works if you are in a strong enough position to make that demand though. Tactic number 4. Polar opposite. This tactic is often a good ploy to use when a negotiation is going in the wrong direction. As I am sure that many people have experienced in the past, some negotiators can get unnecessarily confident above and beyond some of their leverage or position. The polar opposite tactic allows you to reset their understanding of the negotiation boundaries and re-emphasize your power. This tactic can be deployed by expressing extreme opposite to the deal currently on the table. One example would be to threaten to end the negotiation and walk away, or use phrases such as, "If we cannot reach an agreement on this particular contract, then I will have no choice but to stop this meeting discussion and go to the other provider." While a powerful tactic, if often used frequently or used at the wrong time, it can cause irritation and undermine the relation you have built to date. This tactic always reminds me of my father when I was growing up in Oxford, England. My father always has been a very calm and composed man. He He would rarely ever use his voice at my sister and I when we were kids, but when he did, we knew he was serious and we were in trouble. Tactic number 5. Plan B. As the boxer Mike Tyson once famously said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. You can have all the leverage in the world, from money to information, from competitive positioning to strategic relations, but when they mean very little if you have no option but to sign a deal with a specific company or person. One example we commonly see with a lot of startups is the lack of experience, resulting in lower leverage. Potential clients, who are often aware that the startups need their business in order to survive, will take the advantage of the fact. As a result of being in this position, companies will push for stricter terms or place emphasis on the risk of working with a much younger company in order to get a better deal. Having an alternative option, a plan B, only really works if the option is truly viable. Even if the other negotiating party is unaware that your alternative option is fake, it can still cause problems, impacting your team's confidence, stress, and the speed and the size of your consciousness, and all the other hacks in this book. In this situation where you don't have a viable plan B, the guidance is simply work hard with as much time as you have available and get one. Tactic number 6. Time pressure. In Chris Voss' book Never Split the Difference, a thrilling insight into the world of law enforcement negotiations, Chris highlights that time is the one of the most crucial variables in any negotiation. Time can be used to influence perceived scarcity, to create power, to create enough pressure to achieve additional concessions, and to change how a negotiation might end. One application of this tactic is when a negotiation agenda is altered because of the other negotiating party becomes aware of, for example, your departing flight heading home. If the other negotiating party believes you are under pressure to finish a negotiation by a specific time or to hit a certain target, such as the end of the month sales quota, then you can almost certainly guarantee that they will use the knowledge to their advantage. To resolve this issue in a negotiation, challenge any deadlines you have been given, and if a deadline cannot be moved, try to avoid the other negotiating party being aware of your constraint. 7. Standards. Another critical author and legend in the negotiation space is Stuart Diamond, CEO of Getting More Inc., a negotiation at the Wharton Business School, University of Pennsylvania. One of Diamond's impactful lessons is on the application of standards. This tactic is a negotiator's tool for referencing facts in order to justify a specific request or a concession. Standards are seen in a company's marketing positioning, brand, or even its publicly advertised value proposition. An example could be a manufacturing firm that advertises having 100% customer satisfaction guaranteed. If you experience anything less, you are more than justified in constantly referencing their customer satisfaction promise/statement the next time you meet them at a negotiation table. If a company does not deliver on their company promises, this significantly weakens their credibility. See ethos back in chapter 2. Tactic 8. Concessions. Finally, let's discuss the importance of how to concede. 3 rules should be applied to concede like a pro. Never concede, getting something, however small, in return. This sets the tone for how you operate as a negotiator and will increase the value you extract from the other negotiating party. If you have ever a list of concessions, structure the negotiation so that if you need to concede, you can provide with smaller ones first. 3. Have some sugar-coated concessions in your back pocket. These are concessions that hold great tangible value for the other negotiating party than they cost you to provide. Examples could be free trading or a longer term contract. Here's the chapter for Hack number 6. Being prepared for a negotiation is critical. The more you prepare, the better the outcome. B. While there is a seemingly endless 50 plus list of tactics, there are 8 that I believe everyone should know. 1. Set a strategy and an anchor. Ensure you understand the upper and lower limits of what you are and are willing to give up during the negotiation in order to get what you want. Align on these with your team and organizations in advance if needed, and clearly communicate your boundaries early on by anchoring. 2. Teaming. Use our team to deliver your negotiation messaging, if and only if it adds value. Be aware of the fact that misalignment with your team can weaken your negotiation position. 3. Lack of authority. If the other negotiating party expresses that they have lack of authority to agree to a certain term or request, then be mindful that they may be using this tactic to reduce their consciousness. If appropriate, ask for the decision maker to join in the next conversation. Number 4. Polar opposite. If you have reached a deadlock during a negotiation or find the other party is trying to take an advantage of you and does not appreciate your position, don't hesitate to remind them of the fact that you can and will walk away. Number 5. Plan B. Always have a backup plan if you can't reach the minimum you have set in your negotiation strategy. If you don't have a plan B, get one. Number 6. Time pressure. Do not fall victim to time constraints unless you have no choice. Number 7. Standards. Refer to specific standards or known facts in order to ground the other negotiating party. Concessions. Only concede when you get something in return. Concede small at first, have some concessions that are more meaningful to the other negotiating party than they are for you. Conclusion. These 6 hacks are far from the complete list. However, I see them as the most critical ones to long-term negotiation karma. What I mean by that is that there are several other cheap tricks that might help you win off the one-off negotiation, but will ultimately have detrimental effect if you ever need to deal with that individual or company or someone else in your close network ever again. Such tricks include but are not limited to lying, deception, misdirection, inconsistency, and coercion. One additional element that is interwoven with many of these hacks is cultural influencing factors. I left this topic out on purpose, as it completely justifies an entire book on its own. The term culture is a complex consideration, arguably different for every single person. Culture also changes throughout your life, based on your upbringing, experiences, and the people you engage with, such as family members, school friends, work colleagues, and mentors. While there are definitely some insightful generalizations, and that can be applied to understanding how to best interest with another person who was either born in or currently resides in the specific country and or speaks a certain language, you can easily get lost by focusing on these guidelines in a vacuum. 2 people and their research that I hold in high regard on this topic is Professor Gerald Hendrik Hofstede, Dutch social psychologist and a professor emeritus of organizational anthropology and international management at Maastricht University in the Netherlands, and Professor Wilhelmina Wosinska, senior lecturer in social psychology at Arizona State University. Professor Hofstade's main research website is a useful tool and is constantly updated with new research insights, which is www.hofstede insights.com. I recommend reading some of his research specific to a culture that you are either communicate with on a regular basis or are starting to negotiating with to avoid any common mistakes. At the same time, it is also important to stay true to the core negotiation hacks in this book. as they generally apply across the cultural matrices with only a few exceptions. While I love about this book, about this topic, is that even though some of these key concepts can be traced back to over 2000 years, psychologists and behavioral scientists are continuing to make new and relevant findings all the time. One of the most recent at the time of this writing was published by Dr. Oli Iden and Dr. Michael Riven-Tagar in the Journal of Psychological Sciences. Dr. Iden and Dr. Riven-Tagar argue the phrasing select communications in noun-pronoun noun form instead of the verb form can reduce anger during a negotiation and improve the likelihood of a successful outcome. An example could be use of nouns in a sentence to say, "I'm in support of the tightening of our service level agreements," rather than the same sentiment but in the verb-based sentences such as, "I'm in support of the tightening our service level agreements." This will have profound implications for how negotiation scripts can be and should be written as your advanced preparation. Hack number 7. This was basically the book Negotiation Hacks by Simon Rycraft. It taught us tactics to get what we want, and I hope you enjoyed this very long reading. My throat kind of hurts, but I hope you enjoyed this book, and please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed my narration, and I hope I could give you some valuable insights that will help you throughout your entire life. See you next time. Bye bye.